Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's Prize Pick Show here on Orangebloods Live. Do us a solid like, comment, subscribe to the page. We always appreciate your acts of kindness in the way of helping the algorithms. I'm Jeff, Jason, Alex, Anwar. The whole group is here. We'll be talking not about game predictions this week with regards to Texas because they're on a bye week, but we will be getting into some of our favorite weekend prize picks. I've got a few I've already been looking at, including there's one in the A&M game that I absolutely love. But before we do that, I'll remind everybody, jump into the Specs chat. Super chat us. We'll take your questions. Guys, I just wanted to get us started today. And Anwar, I'll go to you first on this. We're 8 games into the season. We all made preseason predictions on what we thought this team would do. I think I was at 11-1, but I think you were 10-2. Jason, what were you?
10-2.
And Alex?
I was 10-2.
Are we all Anwar, do you feel like you're on pace where you thought this team would be and where it is today?
Yeah, pretty much. You know, it's always hard to know exactly how certain things are going to play out, you know, particularly, but you just kind of go into a general sense. You know, my tricky games for this team, you know, I had Georgia down as a loss. And then the other tricky games that I had for this team were Arkansas, Kentucky, and A&M. I went with Kentucky. That's clearly should be off the board as far as that.
I'm going to bring that up. You can just let that sleeping dog lie.
That's okay. It's okay. It's okay. I will own an L. But I did say there was some tricky games that were down the line. These were the 3. I still think, for the most part, at least 2 out of the 4 or out of those 3 are really going to be tricky games. The Arkansas game, which, you know, I think right now Texas is actually like a double-digit favorite going into that game, and then of course the A&M game as well. And I had Colin Wilson from the Action Network on my show this morning, kind of breaking that down and talking about the trenches and how good A&M is from a defensive line perspective and how tricky of a game it's going to be for Texas if they don't play better on the offensive line. So, yeah, I think for the most part, Catch, you know, 10-2 and 11-1. We're not talking. That's not the difference between, you know, 10-2 and, you know, 6-6. Like everyone's in the ballpark. So it's kind of playing out the way I thought, you know, just with a little bit different details.
Maybe I'll reframe the question a little bit for you, Jason. And I guess the reason why I'm bringing it up is I have felt like all season long, Texas fans have been very bullish that this team was going to go 11-1 at worst, that they would blow the doors off of Arkansas and A&M. And then the expectations were I did a poll months before the season started, and more than 85%, ironically enough, said that Texas needed to get into the playoffs, win at least one game. That was 85%, more than, I think, 50% Texas said Texas needed to be in the Final Four. Feels like this week, even though they beat Vanderbilt and they're still 5th or 6th in the country, feels like this week there are more Texas fans who have said 10-2 starting to feel reasonable. And then at that point, you're somewhere in the final 8 teams that get in. So you're playing in that opening round weekend. And I don't know. I just wonder if 8 weeks into the season, if it feels like this thing is on course the way we thought it was.
Yeah, you know, I'm kind of in line with the fan base. First off, happy Halloween, fellas. Catch, I was hoping you'd wear your bunny costume today or something. Maybe.
Chad like admonished me over it yesterday. He said that when I'm wearing the rabbit hat, that all he can think about is things other than sports.
Okay.
Well, so I was like, okay, well, I guess I won't do that again.
Yeah, maybe that's more of an Easter thing anyways. But, you know, I'm with Anwar. I predicted 10-2. I predicted a Georgia loss. And then I was like, I don't know where the second loss will come from, but it's probably going to be A&M, Arkansas, or Oklahoma. I said one of these road or neutral site games. But, yeah, my thinking, Catch, is kind of just what you described among what you're sensing from the fan base. Like, I still think this team probably is going to win out and go 11-1, but the way this team has played against Georgia, against Vandy, even against Mississippi State about a month ago, has me a little bit more pessimistic, if you will. Maybe that they might drop one of those games against Arkansas or Texas A&M. I don't think Kentucky or Florida is much of a threat at home. Maybe Florida a little bit, but yeah, I kind of am in line with what you described that you're sensing from the fan base. Like 10-2 seems a lot more likely to me now than it certainly did 2 or 3 weeks ago or a month ago, because I think this
when they were undefeated and number one in the country.
Well, definitely then, but even maybe coming out of the Georgia loss, the Vanderbilt game didn't inspire a ton of confidence. If anything, it lessened my confidence from this team going 11-1 to 10-2. My confidence level maybe came down a little bit coming out of that Vanderbilt game. I get it, road win, top 25 opponent, SEC. Yeah, still wasn't the most impressive win. I mean, if you get a win, you move on. But I'm probably would change my prediction to 11-1 if I could redo it. But 10-2 does scare me a little bit, because I think there is a potential that this team stumbles in one of these remaining games.
Alex, feel free to jump into the conversation. Again, kind of a baseline topic to get us started, but it is something that's been on my mind for the last few days, watching people in the Specs chat, watching Orangebloods, kind of very organically, maybe a different set of expectations and an outlook for the rest of the season. That won't be everybody, but it definitely exists more today than I've seen at any point this season.
Yeah, I mean, just coming back to the stuff that I feel like I've said this before, maybe here on the show or the modcast, but man, these SEC games just kind of hit different. Yeah, I mean, it's some of these games are tough. It's a tough schedule. Even when they say it's like, that's an easy SEC schedule, and all, like you say that at the beginning of the season, and then you flip the cards over, and the teams are different than you think they were going to be, and all of a sudden now you have Kirby Smart yesterday on the SEC coaches media conference call saying that, kind of true that Florida's playing about as well as anybody in the SEC over the course of the last couple of weeks, and they have a freshman quarterback that's really coming along and looking like he can do some things, and all of a sudden that's not looking, it's not looking like that's just an absolute gimme of a game. Arkansas last week puts up 52, whatever it was. Whatever it was. I mean, it looks like it's. I mean, I don't know if they're going to do it again, or if that's just if that's what they're going to be doing moving forward. I don't think so. But gosh, just showing us that they can do it. It's it's out there, that can happen. And then of course A&M. I think they face a really tough test this weekend at South Carolina. I think that actually going to South Carolina, the lines would tell us that. They were 2.5-point favorites at home versus LSU. They're only 2.5-point favorites going to South Carolina. That's a really tough defense. So I think it's wild how things could play out. I don't necessarily think that the rest of the schedule right now is as easy as it was maybe as we predicted to start. And so with that being said, I think that my, just a pat on the back to me, I think my 10-2 call was just exactly right, because the way I see it right now, I think it's 50-50 that Texas gets out of this season with one loss right now. I think to run the table, it's about a 50-50. Now where that stumbling block would come up, it's like I think it's most likely if Texas were to stumble, it would be against A&M. But I mean, you could easily foresee something where they stub their toe versus Arkansas and win that last game versus A&M. And next thing you know, we're having to go to Chad and have him go through that 22-page document about tiebreakers and figure all that stuff out for us.
Hey, Alex, real quick, I want to work this out. Like mathematically, you think what's the percentage that Texas beats Florida? Let's all see if we can find a consensus on this, right? Like 90%?
I'd 80. I think they win 8 out of 10.
Anybody got a problem with 80?
No.
How many times do they win? Let's just go with it for the sake of doing this exercise. What's the percentage against Arkansas? 65?
Yeah, I was going to say 70, maybe 60, like 66.666 repeating.
Anwar, where are you at on this?
Probably, yeah, 65 to 70 sounds just about right. Somewhere in between there.
Let's go with 70 for the sake of moving this along. What do we think the odds of them beating Kentucky are?
90.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to even go 95 because this is now a Kentucky team that's 15th in our power poll and on the Orangebloods power poll. And then what do we think the odds of them beating A&M are? Is that a 55-45 game, 50-50?
55-45.
Yeah, 55-45.
So the math that they would go undefeated at that point is less than 30%. If you do all of the every game and add them all up together, it makes a 30% baby. So 50-50, I think is probably right, but it's, from a math standpoint, us ballparking what we think the numbers are, 30% chance that Texas wins all of those games.
Well, the thing is, Catch, about this college football season, especially if everyone's followed the SEC, I think it's easy to absorb the potential second loss when you just look at everybody else in the conference. Teams lose, and bad teams find a way to rise up. We saw Mississippi State in a four-quarter game versus Georgia, where you say, well, that shouldn't happen, right? We saw them barely beat Kentucky. Georgia barely beats Kentucky 13-12, and we think Kentucky is horrible. But we see that, and so it's when you keep seeing every single week that something happens. It's hard to just find like a real dominant team and say to yourself, that's that team, and then everybody else is a tier below them. It's easy to go into every single week and say, well, no one will be surprised if Florida, it was a four-quarter game going against Florida, would say, well, that's just about right. Like, so the thing that is that the good thing about it, and I think what you can breathe a sigh of relief now, is because because it is the playoffs, because it's 12 teams, it's not like the top four get in and there's this panic, like, golly, one more loss and this is a wrap. You can almost wrap your head around, okay, 2's good, and then factor in the other things that get you in the playoffs, because now it's just more about the playoffs more so than anything else.
But Ketchum, this has been weighing on my mind. You're better at this stuff than I. Like, you'd always be my phone a friend, or you or Chad would be my phone a friend for this. If they were like it, if I was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and they asked me like, is 2 losses fine to get in?
The question really, 2 in the SEC, I think Alex is going to, we will eventually learn 2 in the SEC will get you in every time. The question is going to be, will there ever, because it's historically that like 11th, 12th spot sometimes is a 3-loss team. So could you lose 3 games in the SEC and get in? I don't think it's going to be that kind of a year. Because I think to the point that Anwar is making, once you're done with Georgia, all of the teams 2 through 5, 6, 7.
A lot of parity, man. Like, and they could up with, yeah.
Most of them all have one pretty good win. And then all of them either have a loss or 2 losses in the case of an Alabama or whomever, Missouri, which is way down the list now. I think the real value in the SEC, it's really strange. I found myself not enthusiastic about a lot of the conference. It was just like, oh, God, am I really voting Alabama 5th? But it's like, what are my other options? And it's just, I'm kind of shrugging my shoulders. But when we get to 9th, 10th, or 11th, and it's like South Carolina or Arkansas, I'm like, now we're talking. That feels like real good value. And then very quickly, you get to 12th and it's Missouri and you're like, blah. So,
but the thing is, Catch, it won't work that way though. I'm sorry I interrupted you, but
no, you're fine.
I apologize for that, Catch. The thing is, the challenge that we're having now is that you're going to have teams like, let's say, like an SMU that will only have 1 loss. You're going to have like a group of 5 team that's in there as well. So 3, when you start looking at the landscape of college football, and you start seeing like, okay, well, what did he do with some of these other programs that like a Pitt or something like that, where Kansas State or Iowa State.
All these teams are going to lose games. Like, we still have a month to go, but they're going to be knocking each other off.
But a lot of them are only going to lose 1, right? And so that's where it becomes we'll know on Tuesday how the committee really feels about the SEC. Like, we'll know like how they value some of these things, because you're gonna have a lot of teams that are outside the SEC that are literally only going to have 1 loss, staring at you in the face, And how do you then, if you start saying, well, a 3-loss SEC team is better than this 1-loss team in this other conference that went to a championship, then all of a sudden it becomes.
But that 3-loss team's got to have, I think, some megawatt wins.
Yeah, it's going to be like college basketball. Like, where's their big
Exactly.
quality wins? For Texas, where's Texas' quality win right now? I mean, maybe if they go on and beat A&M, would that be their quality win? I guess, but
well, that would be their biggest win for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you really can't point to Vanderbilt or Michigan as being a quality win. It's everything you guys are saying. I agree with. It kind of feels like at the end there's going to be some tough decisions, and it may come down to, like we always hear in NCAA basketball. Okay, they have a really good loss against Georgia, or they have really quality wins. This team has really quality wins against these two teams. So we're going to put them in over this other team that maybe has the same record or even maybe a slightly better record. So I think that the top 6, 7, 8 teams will probably be pretty easy, but then those last 5 or 6 teams are going to be pretty tough to decide on.
Well, for instance, like, Catch, I'll have this in the war room, right? But for instance, can I just read this off to you real quick? I'll have this in the war room, but the committee used, when I was on the conference call yesterday, they used last year's rankings to be like the determination of, okay, well, who would be in like right now, right? So based off of like last year. So if you think Michigan would be 1, Texas would be 2 because they would be like a conference champion, right? Florida State at 3, Arizona. And you go through the list of things that kind of make sense, right? But they have Liberty at the 12 spot, right? And so just like, because
there's going to be one non-Power 4 conference team that makes it. So
Didn't I hear somebody say that was going to be a lock to be one team already, like a Memphis or something already has something like that? Is there? No, there isn't one that's like the front runner. Okay.
I mean, Boise State, I think, is a team that has a chance to be that team, but they're one loss away from not. You know what I mean? Like, it's a precarious position to be in that non-power in the power conference because a slip up here or there. I think the cool thing is next week when we finally get the first set of rankings, it really will change the way we view the rest of the season. We're going to look at teams that are just outside of the 11, 12 area and know that they stand to move up if teams in that area lose. And I just think we're going to get to it. What I'm really excited about in November, and the rankings will make it real, is we're going to start watching every game through the prism of what it means for the playoffs. A little bit like we do in March when it gets to be about 2 or 3 weeks out and teams are on the bubble. Every game is viewed not through what does it look like on the weekend of November 1st or 2nd. It's looked at through when we get to decision day and teams are either in or out. Did that help them get in or not? And obviously, I think in football, way more than basketball, a loss stands to be crippling because, Anwar, the perception of the order will matter. So if you are, let's say you're at 9th in the standings and you lose, let's say somebody loses to an LSU or something like that, and they're sitting at 9th. How far down do they fall? Because the rest of the way we'll think of, well, the committee had them behind Kansas State. What changed? If they, you know what I mean? Like, we'll start viewing the games of, well, they're behind these teams. So in order to win, they've got to climb above. And I just think there will be the whole thing will be a massive jigsaw puzzle. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how it works out because a team like Alabama, they have no more margin for error. They've got 2 losses. If they win out, they'll get in. They just will. But if they lose one more game, they have to know that they've gone below the Mendoza line of what you can expect, I think, in most years. And it might put what Anwar's talking about to test. And it may not even be like a 1-loss Pitt team. What do you do if there's an ACC team with 2 losses and you've got an SEC team with 3 losses? If it's Alabama, would they get the benefit of the doubt? I think our first time through this real life simulation, by the time we get out of it, it will frame the way we think about next year and the year after as we live through some of these and kind of get a feel for what the eventual flow will look like.
What they've said is it's better to lose early than to lose late. Okay, that was communicated yesterday.
Yes.
Is get your losses out of the way, because as they really start digging in, right, like these things will count, a lot more. The strength of schedule will matter as far as who you're playing, and then becomes the so subjective eye test.
Oh yeah,
which no one can measure, but it becomes just how does it look? I know we got all these metrics here, but how's the team look? You know what? Florida State doesn't pass the eye test anymore because their quarterback is hurt. You're like, wait, we're undefeated. Like, yeah, we just don't think you're as good. Now, look, they did get blasted in the bowl.
It's kind of right. It was kind of right.
To Florida State's slight defense, damn near all their team left for the bowl.
But they would have been in this current model, which is why a 12-team model is so much better than not only that, they would have had a first-round bye because they would have won their conference, right? So it would have been a situation where at least there's a safety net so that can't quite happen. What we're going to end up doing is talking about, and I wonder, if you expand it more than 12, it might feel a little bit like the NCAA basketball tournament where you're like, this 18-12 team versus this 19-11 team. And you just kind of go, does it really matter? Really? Does it matter? Put somebody in. They might win a game. They might win two, but it's not really impacting things. The subjectiveness of what Anwar is talking about, the eyeball test, where two teams are side by side from an analytic standpoint, but one is from one conference and the other is from another. And how do we treat a school like Indiana? I have no idea. I have no idea how good Indiana is. I don't think they've trailed in a game this season. And they're probably going to finish 11-1. They're in the Big Ten. Are they going to host a first-round matchup, even though they don't really have a ton of quality wins? I can't wait to watch all of this unfold. I do want to remind everybody, this show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Use that promo code Orangebloods. Play $50. That's it. Play $5. They're giving you $50 instantly. It's that simple. Play 5, get 50. Anwar, I'm trying to find there it is. Here we go. Bam. Put it up on the full screen. Look how pretty that looks. Find you a couple of plays. Just make a $5 entry, and they're going to give you $5 that you can, or $50 that you can use any old way that you want to. It's just one of the reasons why we love Prize Picks. And I haven't come up with a dummy account yet, but boy, I think about it. Like, I just need to fake email $50, but they probably have ways of protecting against that. I sometimes want to use the promo code like everybody else.
Yes.
But in the end, I talk about it and I'll never do it. It just sounds good. I want to play the 5 and get 50. Guys, college football picks. I've got a couple that I really like. Let me put a full screen up. Almost full screen. Sorry about the margins there. These are the hottest plays on Prize Picks right now. These are the most active entries. The Will Howard Red Demon 1.5 passing touchdowns. He's not that far away from being a legit Heisman Trophy candidate. He's top 5 in the country in passing efficiency. Ohio State, if they win the Big Ten, he's going to be a big reason why they do. Everybody always talks about the wide receivers. I might get me some of that Will Howard, Anwar.
Catch, he's gone over that number 5 straight games, dude.
That's what I'm saying. Oh, wow. It's a Red Devil.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good value play right there.
But I don't know what I mean, Penn State, that game feels like it might get a little grimy, but I don't know how you get more value out of only needing 2. If that's at 2.5, I'm not touching it with a 10-foot pole. But 1.5, I'll probably jump on that and then pay for it on Saturday night. I'll be like, God damn it, Will Howard. How does Prize Picks always know?
Whoever they've hired in the offseason is doing a damn good job. That's all I can say.
Tip of the cap.
Let me tell you about the worst part about my vacation last week, guys. is I couldn't do prize picks from where I was from. It's only allowed in certain places. And last week they had discounted plays all week for the NBA, and I couldn't play any of them. And I'm on vacation. I should be on cloud 9, right? But it made me pissed every single day that I couldn't play prize picks from overseas. So
I wanted to ask you guys this, by the way. That's total degenerate.
yes, it is.
And I love that about you. Are we at a point, like, what do we do with Ashton Genty? 182.5 is a huge number.
Gosh.
I mean,
What
Cody
does
always
the
says about
Jason mask mean? What is that?
well, they've had that on him for a couple. It's probably just because he's a total sicko and a killer, man. But I think it's probably Halloween. But he's had that thing on for the last 2 weeks, so I don't know what that is. Cody's deal is always bet the more on Genty because he's just not real, right? But last week he went way under. It was like
Still went for 128, but
but still, when his projection set at 192, it's like this is,
I dropped him in my Heisman rankings after 129 yards, Jason. I felt dirty about it, and yet it felt like the right thing to do.
We view that as a Texas running back breakthrough if they got that number.
exactly.
Oh my God, 129 running game's back.
There goes the 1,000-yard rusher, Anwar.
Oh God, I asked Sark about that, but go ahead.
Let me tell you one that I really like. I clicked on the A&M ones before we went on the air because I wanted to see if they had a quarterback, and they don't. They don't have I don't think A&M's listed a starter, so A&M doesn't have a quarterback listed in the prize picks. When they eventually do, especially if it's Marcel Reed, I think I would take the less than on the whatever passing yards they put up there. I think South Carolina is wrong opponent, wrong time for Marcel Reed or Connor Weigman for that matter. But that being said, they've got Le'Veon Moss at 11.5 receiving yards. He had 42 last week in the win over LSU, and I think South Carolina will be so aggressive and going after the quarterbacks that A&M would be foolish not to have some screen game to Moss in the game plan this week to try to slow that South Carolina, that monster front that's been so good all season.
I like that. I like that. I mean,
11.5. It's all he's got to do.
Yeah, man, that's good. I like it.
Now, there have been games where he has not broken 11. He's had one game where he had 0. He had another game where he had, I think of his last 6 games, he's hit that number 4 times. But I feel like this is all about game plan. You got to make easy throws for the quarter, especially if they go with Marcel Reed. They need some screen game just to get him some rhythm in the passing game. So I think it's possible that this could be a game where Moss catches 5 passes. But even if he only catches 1, I think there's a good chance that he'll break off more. I played Moss on the more in the receiving game last week. It hit for me. A couple of others didn't. Ryan Wingo.
Dude, it's always these long DPIs or just like Quinn just misses him on these open explosives. It's just this Wingo thing these last 2 weeks has been a nightmare.
Anwar thinks that I hate Quinn Ewers, but other than the interception play that I made last week, I had 6 other Ewers mores that I went with. Hit them all. I was 7 for 7 on Ewers last week, but I had Ryan Wingo and almost every single one because he was started instead of Bond. And I thought, okay, he's going to get some of that target share. We're going to see a Ryan Wingo breakout, and all that broke was my prize picks account. But it should be noted for the record that Quinn hit the mores on almost all of the entries that they had for Quinn last week. So as far as I'm concerned, Quinn's back on the prize picks momentum wagon. We needed that because I had been betting Quinn on the Moors for weeks, and that didn't work out too good either. I can't get it right, Anwar. I'm currently in a damned if I do, damned if I don't slump.
I'm in a huge slump. You know, I have not put that monster payday up all year long. So I'm hoping, you know, shooters shoot, you know, so I'm still shooting and I'm hoping for one to hit, but it has been rough this year. It has been rough. I've hit on some of them, but not the monster ones that I'm wanting to hit on.
I had a couple of wins left. Oh, they changed it up on Prize Picks has changed up their
format.
Their design has changed a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I took advantage of one of the NBA plays, Jason. So I was watching a DeMar DeRozan last week. I was staying up till 11:30 at night watching. I think it was Sacramento and the Lakers play, and DeMar DeRozan did 17 and a half. I won $50 pairing him up with Quinn Ewers. Thank you, Quinn.
I'm such a degenerate. I almost texted one of you guys and, hey, can you log in for me under my account and place these picks for me on Prize Picks?
That's definitely.
I hated missing those discounted plays, dude.
I won 70. I showed you guys this. I paired Pavia and Ewers together, their interceptions, and they both threw interceptions last week. It was probably my favorite Prize Picks highlight moment of the season, just because I never play interceptions. So to pair the two quarterbacks in the same game getting a pick.
Those were two Red Devils, right?
Yes. And then the other one that I hit, I got to give a shout out to my guy, Cody Carpentier. Remember last week in the show, I put a $20 power play on Gunnar Helm breaking, I think it was 19.5 or whatever, the longest reception. And then we went with Will Riker, the kicker points.
Dude, that Will Riker kicker that just hits, man.
That was a $60 win for me in a week where I had a bunch of $20 losses. I came out ahead barely, so I shouldn't complain too much about a slump that I'm on. But Cody, thank you. If you have any Will Riker Thursday night picks, let me know.
Oh, he's gonna have them. He'll be on YouTube talking about him at some point.
Anybody else before we wrap up have anything that they think from a Prize Pick standpoint is an automatic for them?
Well, I was just looking at some of the degenerate kind of action for tonight. It looks like we have Georgia State, or I guess it's for tomorrow night. Tonight we have Tulsa and Charlotte. I don't, the one I was looking at was this Georgia State UConn. I thought it was tonight, but it's actually Friday. But they have the Georgia State tight end Dorian Fleming at 32.5 receiving yards. And I just kind of was looking at his game log. I'm like, well, that kind of seems like the bottom of his range of outcomes based on what he's done this season. And if you just go look at it as far as the team, I mean, he's their team's second leading receiver. I saw that on his ESPN page. It's got this sick highlight of him with some 58-yard touchdown last week and all the rest of this stuff. So I don't know much about Dorian Fleming, but it looks like 32.5 is basically over the course of the year for the team's second leading receiver. It's at the very bottom of what he's done. The more comparable games are games where versus Vandy, he went for 49, Georgia Southern 58 versus Marshall 66. He's only gone under 32.5 once versus Old Dominion, and who knows? And that was 31, and who knows how that went. So that'll be one on Friday, just for some fun watching the games that I'll put in. Dorian Fleming, the Georgia State tight end, more than 32.5 receiving yards.
I've got two more, but I'll let you. Anybody else that has any go in front of me?
Hey, I'll ask you this, Catch. This is beyond degenerate. This is actually just a you and I conversation. So you got Alex and Jason can tune out. Rhea, they got Dave for Arsenal.
Yes,
they have him at 3 goalie saves. I feel like a more on that is asking a lot from our.
Who are they playing?
They're playing Newcastle.
That's right.
So I feel like the less on that sounds reasonable, especially when you look at his numbers. What's your initial thought on that? I feel like for
that game's at Newcastle. God, Arsenal's defense is usually really, really good. That they oftentimes don't. Rhea doesn't have to make saves,
Yeah.
But I don't quite know what that group's going to look like. I would probably stay away from that.
You think so?
I think I would just stay away from it. I think they've got the number right there. I'm not saying I would probably go with the less if I was just had to get some action in, but Newcastle will get some shots off at home. And will they be on target? Will they be blocked? That's the thing that Arsenal does so well is the ball rarely gets to the goalie. So it's not like Ray has to make a bunch of saves because oftentimes the shots either aren't on target because they're not high quality shots, or a guy gets a leg on it and blocks it and he doesn't get credit. The guy doesn't get credit for a shot on target and the goalie's not in action. So there you go. There's my thought on that.
That's exactly how I see it.
Hey, no, I think you guys are going to like these, okay? I think you guys are going to like these. If you look at Vanderbilt this weekend, they're playing Auburn. Eli Stowers is at 41.5 receiving yards. They had a hard time getting him really involved against Texas. I think they'll overcorrect that this week. So I really like the more for Stowers on receiving yards. And I'm probably going to take advantage of this before the hour is up, but they've got Diego Pavia at 47.5 rushing yards.
What are they doing?
They're giving us some bandy plays if we're smart enough to take them before. And by the way, that number just went yellow and may have gone up 2 yards.
It just went to 49.5, literally.
No.
Yeah.
Literally in the middle of my sentence,
Yeah.
they bumped Diego Pavia up 2 yards.
Damn it.
Who's listening
They're
to this for
starting to
Prize
try.
Picks?
They're starting. It's like the one thing about Diego Pavia becoming Diego Pavia becoming a national thing is like it's pretty soon we're going to lose the weekly free.
They literally just raised the number
As you're talking about him.
as I was talking about it.
He's
still
still
good
going to
value,
go
but-
over, but it's just like he might make you sweat until the third quarter or something this time, as opposed to having it for you by the middle of
I'm
this.
telling you right now, here's what I'm doing. I'm putting my money where my mouth is again. I'm taking, where's that Le'Veon Moss reception play before they raise that? I'm pairing Pavia, Stowers, and Moss as a 3-way play for $20 to win 100. I just submitted that lineup in. So, I feel good enough about those three that I want to get them in some action before the numbers change on me again. Shame on you, Prize Picks, for adding Pavia 2 yards before, literally 30 seconds before I could enter it in. Anyway, guys, let's wrap up. I got to actually do another show here before I do the noon show. Lots of shows on a Thursday. Guys, $5 get you 50 on Prize Picks, but you got to use the promo code Orangebloods, and you have to be new. You can't, otherwise we'd be doing it too. But it's for all new users. Now's the time. In fact, let me just put it up there. We got the design. We might as well pop the big graphic in your face. Simple as this. Play $5, get 50 instantly. If I had 50 right now that they gave me, I would have just put it on the 3-way entry that I just put in. We love Prize Picks. They just gave us our monthly deposits for all of our accounts. We're all going to go nuts this weekend. It was like the highlight of my Halloween was Onward saying, hey guys, Prize Picks hit. Yeah! I lost everything that I got last month. Look, for myself, for Jason, for Onward, for Alex, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully we gave you a little bit of info that you'll be able to use. Hopefully you enjoyed the UT football discussion topic. Until next Thursday when we'll do this all again, you guys have a great rest of the day, and hopefully we'll see you either watching House Divided or the Old Fashioned or Football with Friends or the Recruiting Hour. There's so much good content on Orange Bloods right now, Orange Bloods Live. Go check it out. It's all there just waiting for you. Click away. You guys have a good